Hello, listener. In today's episode of the Euro Football Verdicts podcast, we're going to dissect what happened in the Europa League Final. Or should I say, the Sevilla Cup Final? Will this have an impact on Antonio Conte's future? Another manager whose future was in doubt, but is no longer, is Ronald Koeman. But will he make Barcelona great again? Or will he be out of a job this time next year? Finally, we will look back at what happened in the Champions League semifinals and look forward to La Grande Finale in Lisbon. Who will take home the cup with the big ears this Sunday? It's Bayern versus PSG. This and more in today's episode of the Euro Football Verdicts. Hi guys, welcome to this week's Euro Football Verdicts podcast. I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host Marco. Hi, Marco.
Hello, everyone.
And also back from deserved holidays, Stefano. How's it going, Steph?
Hello, guys. How are you?
So, today's business, I see something happened very interestingly yesterday in Cologne, in Germany, at the Europa League Final. So, Sevilla against Inter. What a match. 3-2. A lot of drama, a lot of amazing free kicks, some fighting even every now and then, but a lot of emotions from both sides in the end, with some people making up for mistakes and others just losing their minds. So what happened there in Cologne, Marco?
Yeah, thanks, Alex, for the introduction. Very interesting game indeed. Very tough game, I would say. Already at the 20th minute, we did see the referee really struggling to keep the player quiet. I think there was a lot of nervousness. Both teams were quite excited of being in this very particular year in the Europa League Final. Very different setup compared to the usual one. Again, mundialito, as they call it, so structured. But very interesting game. A lot of goals early on. Many were indeed from free kicks, as you mentioned. But we did see a very good Luc de Jong, finally possibly coming back to what everyone was expecting a couple of years ago, of him being the new striker for the Netherlands. Very nice couple of headers, both, to be honest, great technique he showed in both goals. And then we did see Kaku, very powerful player, in the beginning saving, getting the penalty and scoring it, and at the end, on the other hand, conceding an own goal. But also other player had quite impressive performance. Of course, from Sevilla, Diego Carlos, he had probably the most stressful, intense, and exciting game of his career.
Full of contradictions, I would say.
Yeah, precisely. In the first half, he did concede the penalty. He did concede the free kick that led to the second goal. He did miss the header that was basically the second goal from Inter. But eventually, at the around 70th minute, he did with an amazing technique. He just managed in a rumble in the middle of the area to scissor kick the ball on Lukaku, who was trying to defend the goal and actually conceded an own goal, really, because the ball, at least from the camera angle, looks like it was going out. And that was basically
for sure.
That was basically the 3-2 that led to the end of the game.
Yeah, so people are already saying that Lukaku gives and Lukaku takes. that sum up the match very well. Yes, I think so. Indeed, such a great start by the attacker from Inter. When he got the penalty, I thought for sure that he wouldn't get the ball because he was 2 meters behind of Carlos. And then he managed to steal the ball from him, and he was very, very good in scoring the penalty. And then this unfortunate episode, which led to the Sevilla's goal. And so a very match full of contradictions for Carlos as well, not only for Lukaku as well, not only for Carlos.
But we also did see managers approaching differently the game, I think. I'm not sure, Alex, if you also want to comment on that, but what I did feel is that Conte didn't have the best performance as a manager. The midfield was really managed well by Sevilla. I think that they kept the rhythm of the game. Inter has amazing striker up top, good winger, so they did have probably more actions even than Sevilla. But at the same time, I think the subs were extremely late. Like, he just subbed 4 players in the last 20 minutes when we have 5 subs? What was the point of keeping them in the bench when you see that your team is not keeping the ball, is not playing as they should be playing, and that as you envision the game?
Yeah, I think you're spot on the managerial positions. I think we saw Lopetegui that actually tends to not to be in these occasions. You know, he's not the most experienced in finals, except for the under-21s with Spain. So it was interesting to see his behavior, but he always felt very calm. Very every decision he made, it looked very thought through. The way he pushed Banega on the midfield, I mean, extraordinary match by the player who's now going on to Saudi Arabia. So yeah, I think Lopetegui really had very good decisions on his side. The way his team was physically really strong, despite having some tough games behind them. I think it really shows another phase of Lopetegui. You know, the Lopetegui under pressure, that was very decisive, who had a whole buy-in from their players, who gave it all for their manager. And on the other side, you saw Conte, who, despite having way better players than Inter have, you know, their difference in terms of revenue is outstanding. He didn't see the same buy-in on the other side, with the exception of a very few.
Thanks. That's also some fire in the eyes of the Sevilla player. Many were injured, many ran for a long time. Many were, you know, trying to give the 110%, going the extra mile, just fighting for this final, while I didn't see these in all the Inter player personally.
Yeah, like I would say that for sure among Conte's decisions, the most contested one was to keep Eriksen on the bench for 75 minutes. And I think we already hinted at this topic in our first episode of the football verdicts. But even though it might very well be that Eriksen is not too functional in Conte's way of playing football, still he's such a great player, and still feels weird not to see him on the pitch for so many minutes. Especially in the final, you know, not a normal match.
What about the point you took about Big Rom at the start, in terms of he give it, he take it? I saw a lot of criticism to Romelu Lukaku after the game, you know, in the way that he didn't have the same when he went one-on-one with Bono, not to be not to be confused with Bono from U2, but. He seemed in the first half to be a mountain, and then he kept losing a bit of concentration, a bit of that focus. He still had the same drive, but you could see it was wearing him down. Do you think that it has something to do with Conte, or is it just happened yesterday?
I was especially surprised that in the last minutes of the match, in which you're expecting players like Lukaku to just rush to Sevilla's area and try to do what they can, he was standing still and losing the ball all the time. I'm not sure it has to do something with Conte, but perhaps it was just concentration. Maybe he was suffering the psychological impact of scoring an own goal before, or maybe just, I don't know, he did not believe in the possibility to get the result back anymore. The Lukaku that we saw in the first half of the match is not the same Lukaku that we saw on the second half. And even without considering the own goal, I think.
Yeah, there might be also a physical factor, right? Lautaro didn't really help yesterday. He was quite invisible in the pitch. By many also identified as the worst player of Inter's side. So Lukaku had to do a lot up front. So it might also be he was just tired, at the same time, as you both correctly highlighted, on one hand frustrated because of the own goal, on the other frustrated because he didn't score that 1-on-1 against Bono when he had all the space and all the time to focus. Yeah. Great technique by Bono that managed to go down on the floor very quickly with the second leg, because Lukaku was aiming to get the ball through his legs. So very well done from the goalie there, but of course there was a massive opportunity for Inter that wasn't capitalized. And I think that plus the own goal really led Lukaku to feel like I had all the capability to finish this game, to bring the win to Inter, and I missed.
Interestingly enough, Lukaku actually equaled the record of Ronaldo, the phenomenon, once he joined Inter with 34 goals this season. So it's not like he's had a very bad season. He's been a true revelation, even though some Manchester United supporters would just deem him as a mountain and not really a technically gifted player. We saw a very different player now in Italy. Technically, the speed, actually, despite being big, he's been quite technically a very interesting player in the Serie A, right?
Yeah, closer to the pre-United Lukaku, I would say, where he really was leading by almost like Ibrahimovic, if you wish. Like, that's the closest comparison I can think of. A very strong, but also technically gifted player that can help hold the ball up front, then can pass the ball to the wingers, then can dribble, but at the same time, despite his size, that is also very fast, which is, we also saw it yesterday in the counter-attack, right?
Yeah, especially in the situation which led to the penalty. We saw that he was very strong in getting the ball, but also very fast, because he was starting at least 1 or 2 meters behind, but still got to be in front of the defender. So I still think that next year can be Lukaku's year.
Now, the question is for next year, for instance, will he have the partnership of Lautaro Martinez next to him? Or do you guys think that all the rumors going around this summer leading him to the Camp Nou are to be believed?
My 2 cents is that he will move. It's a couple of years that many teams have put eyes on him. This year, he had a very good year, and he basically proved that he's ready to finally explode and be in the starting 11 of a team. Well, last year he was still a little bit of a fringe player, so he did play some games, but he still wasn't first choice for Inter. This year, I think he showed that there's no doubt why he should be there. He should be in the starting 11. He demolished and had an amazing performance also during the semifinals. He demolished Shakhtar with his moves, with his capability and technique. Yesterday, he didn't manage to have a good game, but that doesn't change the quality player he is. I think if someone comes with 100 million, Inter cannot say no.
And maybe Lukaku will have another partner, which could be Messi next year. What do you think?
For someone who can't say no to 100 million for Lautaro, who is 22 years old, or 23 and in its prime, and has the money to go get Messi, I would start to second guess all the decision making at Inter, to be honest, because Lautaro really seems like the future of the Argentina team, with Messi being the past. So I would be surprised, but nothing shocks me anymore coming out from the Giuseppe Meazza.
But you know what? Lautaro Martinez might very well be not the only one leaving from Inter Milan. And let's see in section 2 of today's episode who might be leaving as well. Welcome back, guys. So here we are back to the football verdicts. And as anticipated, there's still some trouble in Inter Milan, and Martinez might not be the only one leaving the team next year, because we discussed this in our first episode already, but the manager, Conte, released once again yet other controversial declarations after the match. So what happened, guys?
So yesterday after the game, there was a lot of sadness, of course, in Inter side, as you can imagine. They just lost the final. They came there, as we mentioned before. There were also some numbers showing how Inter could be the team winning. As Alex mentioned before, Lukaku, same amount of goal of Ronaldo this year with the goal he scored in the final. And what was the last year that Inter won the UEFA Cup? It was when Ronaldo scored 34 goals in the first season. So, there was some kind of magic in the numbers, some Kabbalah helping, or at least coming also in to help Inter. So they were quite sad. But what's surprising is that once again, despite the amazing performance personally that Inter showcased in this final part of the 2019-2020 season, I did enjoy this season. I'm very glad for what Inter brought me. However, I need to reassess my priorities. These words, all together with the words at the very last game of the Serie A league, I think just makes quite clear that Conte, in his mind, he's already out of Inter. He's planning to leave. there is some incongruencies that we cannot close. It's not clear what happened, but I think he's again blaming the management for the support, really. There is still someone saying that he just want to have even more power on the market. I doubt that's the case. I can understand one of these two declarations being, hey, I want just to make sure that I am the leader maximo here in Inter and not someone else. However, coming back to the same words, to the same sentences, to the same attack, I think that just means that he wants to leave, basically.
What I find very interesting about Conte wanting to leave is that he doesn't seem to have the same bargaining power he had a month ago when the first trouble started. You know, when there was a clear possibility that he could take the job at Juventus or another big club, you know, at the top of my head, you know, at least 2-3 very, very valuable options in the market free, like Max Allegri and Mauricio Pochettino. So I don't know how you see it, Steph, but it looks like he might be biting more than he can chew.
Yeah, you know what? I had the same feeling precisely. This sort of drama is part of Conte behavior. Like he's always going to do that. But at the same time, does it really make sense at this point? Isn't it like too late or simply the wrong time to do so? Well, I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm still not 100% sure that Conte will leave eventually, because even though his words were very powerful, still he left some space looking around for some interesting solutions, like the ones you mentioned, like Max Allegri and Mauricio Pochettino.
While Conte is pondering his future over the next couple of weeks, we have a manager who has already decided on his future and has decided to abandon the Netherlands national team for a comeback to the Camp Nou. The once legend Grana, who led them on the pitch to the first Champions League back in the 90s under Johan Cruyff, he has shown that he might be a very good manager. We're talking about Ronald Koeman, and he has now been officially announced as the new manager for FC Barcelona. Marco, what's your take on this? Is this another trying to get back? Because he doesn't seem to be fully aligned with the Barcelona way in the last couple of years, managing clubs like Everton and Southampton in a very distinct way of playing that resembles nothing to the tiki-taka.
I don't think that necessarily Barcelona at this point wants to force this tiki-taka no more. That's my personal thought, in the sense that what you've seen in the past couple of years is Barcelona trying to get managers to play something that they didn't feel theirs. Just adapting and evolving the Rijkaard, Guardiola, I would say, strategy, mindset, and way of playing, really. And just reinforcing that over and over again. But if I watch how Barcelona plays today and how Barcelona was playing, 10-ish, because at the end of the day it's almost 10 years ago, it's a completely different football. It's just an empty shell of what tiki-taka was. I think it's quite good. Koeman has a very strong idea of what his team should do. At the same time, I think that Barcelona realized that they need someone that has experienced Barcelona in this moment. They need to bring back a face that knows what their motto is, right? The Masque and club. So more than a club, which is Barcelona means, and try to convey this philosophy in the team. I think it's an interesting solution for Barcelona. We have to see also, because there is a lot of unrest in the dressing room, and it's also discussed Messi might leave. At the same time, also Koeman didn't leave Barcelona in the best way when he left Barcelona as a player in the end of the 90s, early 2000s. So it's going to be interesting, but I think he has the capability to do well. At the same time, it's a very tough environment. Many managers that proven themselves being good elsewhere have struggled. So let's see.
Yeah, let's see indeed. Like from Koeman's perspective, of course, you can never say no when a club such as Barcelona wants to sign you. But at the same time, it takes courage to go into such an explosive locker room, you know, because Barcelona is probably in its worst crisis since many years, I would say. And of course, as you said, Marco, now the good old tiki-taka seems to have almost disappeared. So maybe it is a good moment to change even Barcelona's style of playing. And, Piqué himself said that now we need to change everything. And if not everything, at least a lot. So maybe Koeman will be the right man to do so. At least I personally think so.
What is very interesting for me, and also I have read a book now on Ferran Soriano, the former CEO of Barcelona, called Goal, The Ball Doesn't Go In by Chance, in which he talks about how they turned around Barcelona at the beginning of the 2000s, when they also hired the Dutch manager, at that time Rijkaard. But it seems that this goes in line with two moments of their experience at the Camp Nou, which is having in 2008, when they hired Pep Guardiola over Jose Mourinho at the time, one of the first measures they did was to get rid of the heavyweights in the locker room. At that time, three of them, famously, Deco, Ronaldinho, left immediately when Guardiola arrived. He also tried to get rid of Eto'o. He couldn't do it in the first summer, but did it in the second one. So it seems like there might be in for another cleaning of the locker room this year, with some reports also saying that Suarez might be on the way out, among other big heavyweights. What are your thoughts on this cleaning, Marco?
I think it's a trend that we're seeing in European football right now. And the only big team that managed to restructure themselves correctly over the past, I would say, 5 years is Bayern. It's in the Champions League final. We didn't spend too much. And the Bayern Ribéry basically structure that they have, and there was the core of the backbone of the team with Schweinsteiger and the rest of the group, really was at the end of their journey, and it took a couple of years. Let's be honest, they didn't perform as they used to perform before, but now they're doing much better. And again, very young team, they're set for success in the future, and they managed to restructure themselves. Other teams that when I look around, Manchester United really miss the new generation. They keep changing 1-2 players a season, spending tons of money, but never really getting to the new. Aside from the very last game, those are the main two. But also the Asensio, well, he was unlucky due to injuries, but Hazard didn't perform that well. The midfield is still Kroos, Modric. So there is a lot of change, but not really changing the backbone of it. Also, if I look at Italy, Juventus, yes, they've changed a lot of players, but the senators are always the same. And those are the ones that are leading the dressing room. I think there is the need nowadays, and we're saying that there are no more what in Italy we call bandiere. So like the players that start in a club and end up in a club, or they play 10 past year in a club. We're saying that in modern football, there are no such players. However, I do see these players being there, and actually possibly in this modern football, when everything is so fast-paced, and being in a dressing room for 10 years means that you're often more important than the manager himself. Like Messi, we know that Messi was forcing certain managerial position, either because he wanted a coach compared to another one, or because he wanted people such as Abidal, with whom he had a good relationship when he was back in the club as a sporting director. So they become very important. They almost get in managerial position. I think that's a problem nowadays, and we see that getting rid of these players is very hard.
Very interesting point on what you just said about Barcelona. I think they're going to have a big job ahead. They're restructuring the whole, focusing the club on a new era. Plus, they'll have elections soon. Let's see if the president holds until then, and what's going to happen with Ronald Koeman after this. Because one of the candidates already told from the start, no matter what, if I win, my manager is still going to be Xavi Hernandez. So it is an interesting bet that Koeman took of this job, who might only last for another year. But let's keep our eyes on it. It should be an interesting one, especially at Barcelona. Another point you touched on was how Bayern really restructured itself very well after their wins in 2013. Let's see what happened in this week's semifinals, where we had Bayern play against Lyon and PSG against pave the way for the future. So yeah, this week in the Champions League, we've seen two very uneven matches, at least from the result side. We saw 3-0 results. First, PSG against Leipzig, a 3-0, but somehow it felt like this was where the buck stopped for Leipzig. They really tried their best. No one can say they didn't, but here you could really see they missed someone like a Timo Werner running in behind, even more than in the previous games. Was it finally the awakening for PSG that they needed? They finally be able to break the barrier of reaching a Champions League final for the first time. What are your thoughts on the game, Steph?
Well, first of all, I was very surprised, I must say, by the fact that Icardi didn't start first as the attacker for Paris Saint-Germain, right? But still, it seems that PSG played so well even with Mbappe as a center forward. So that was surprising to me, even though it was not the first time they did so. But you know that it was clearly a well-deserved win. Like not to say anything against Leipzig, but still during the match, I never had the feeling that Leipzig was really in the match, like it was having any chances. And what do you think, Marco?
Yeah, I think we in the last recording that we did in the last episode, I think we identified what was the main problem of PSG against Atalanta, really. The lack of quality in the midfield. Now, I think that Di Maria really showed how key is for this team. He came in this game and he changed the midfield upside down. There was way more quality. The player knew what to do. There were a lot of more movement. In the second half, also Verratti got back, which basically most likely means that he will be part of the final. And I think that was key for PSG. At the same time, Mbappe, best player, in my opinion, of the semifinal, where he really just got in the last 30 minutes and changed the game completely. Just anytime he had the ball in his feet, it was a threat. Anytime he was doing a dribble, there was a yellow card. So he completely overthrown the Atalanta setup, the Atalanta strong wing play, and at the same time, he basically led to a couple of goals, or led to Atalanta player not being able to stack in as they would like to. With all this player in, I think PSG it's no match for this Leipzig, and that's also what we mentioned last episode, right? When we did the overview, both actually Alex and myself have identified rather Leipzig as the likely winner for this semifinal. But again, what we also put is with the assumption that PSG will still have certain players not perfectly fit and not part of the game. Now with Di Maria and Mbappe, I think that was just too much for everyone. Those that were key players the whole season, key in the way of playing of PSG, and having them in the game really made everything so easy for the Parisian team.
Yeah, Mbappe really does make the difference, doesn't he? Like you could see in Atalanta, and you saw it even better last game when there's Mbappe on the field, then the defense is never safe, like never.
I think it was really interesting the way when you saw also how Di Maria performed, despite benefiting from an amazing assist from Neymar to score a beautiful goal. I think you really saw how the Argentine was missing. You know, when we discussed the game against Atalanta, he was certainly missing on that game. He really gives a different dynamism to the team, and it proves that he's probably the best linking partner of the front two. He was paramount in this game. Now, the question that I still have about this team is you never really know what kind of PSG will show up every time they play. You know, is it this free-flowing, at least from the attacking side, where Neymar really seems like the man on a mission to deliver glory to Paris? or is it the one where, you know, Tuchel puts 3 defensive midfielders like they did against Atalanta, who doesn't get the team going at all? So that's only my biggest fear about PSG and their performance.
Yeah, I think it's similarly to other teams that were created on the backbone of money. For instance, City. It's hard to get the team being experienced enough to know how to always come in the game. It's a journey for every team, for the players, for the manager, for the management, just to get there to a stage where, you know, anytime I go in a game, I'm gonna perform well. I'm gonna put my 100% and I'm gonna do well. And that's why certain managers are also so well acknowledged in the football space, because they are the ones that will ensure that the team will always perform 100%. Conte, that's what he does. He gets the team, no matter how good or bad he is. You know that every time they go down on the field, they're gonna play in a certain way. They're gonna always put 100% of what they are. They might win, they might lose, that doesn't matter, but they will go there with the organism. I think PSG doesn't have this. It's truly reliant on key players, and it really reminds me of the earlier, but to be honest, we can't even say that it's not still applicable, right? City, where the list of players and where you're just looking at, you know, comparing each position with whatever team they were playing against, they had 8 to 9 players stronger than the opponent. However, despite this, they were still losing. Why? Because it was 11 good players in a field. It wasn't a team. It wasn't a single unique entity made of 11 individuals that played together for the same score, but it was 11 individuals playing with the same jersey, which is very different.
Yeah, so my provocation for today would be, is Mauro Icardi actually essential for PSG or not? Because don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Mauro Icardi, but still on the semifinals, I really had the feeling that he was not as important as I thought he would be for PSG's success.
I have the feeling that Mauro Icardi is really that poacher, the guy who's gonna get you the goals, the guy who plays in the box, which somehow with these tactical teams that require you to be more flexible in the way you approach your offensive line, the way you have to move out more of the zones, allow Mbappe and Neymar to come from the wings and take those positions. He really seems like he wouldn't fit in that. It feels like a foreign body somehow in that attack. It looks like there was a decision made by the manager in that sense of, well, if I have both of these fit, Neymar and Mbappe, having Icardi in the middle will probably hamper my chances of scoring goals. So I don't know what you think, Marco, but I don't think the future looks bright for Mauro Icardi.
I want to go against this and more being an advocate of the devil, I guess. And I just want to throw it out there. Isn't the fact that the striker up front play a lot by themselves the whole point of PSG? So isn't Neymar getting the ball on the midfield and dribbling 3 players and trying to put it in the whole tactical style and the whole idea of PSG? Like 3 great players up front, where 2 are made to dribble, Mbappe and Neymar, and 1 is just made to be there up front, waiting for the ball to come and score. I don't see the willingness to change this tactical style, and I don't, neither for the trainer nor for the players. I don't think Neymar will ever be 100% a squad player. He will always be someone that wants the ball in the feet and that wants to dribble and do the nice and fancy and good-looking action. Not necessarily the easy pass because that's the best for the team. So if that's the case, isn't Icardi the best third member of this attack? A player that doesn't want, actually, like physically doesn't want to have the ball unless he's in a position to shoot or score.
Yeah, maybe time will tell. After all, it was Icardi's first season, and we all know this season was very atypical, and so maybe let's see what happens in the next one about that. Which now leads me to wonder what happened with the second semi-final, which was Bayern Munich against
Lyon.
Against Lyon, of course. And why the result was the same, it was 3-0 as well. I don't know about you guys, but I had the feeling that Lyon played much better than Leipzig comparatively. Like even when being behind in score, they always gave me the feeling that they could very well get back into the game.
The interesting for me is if you look at the stats, they're astonishing. You just look and I read to you, almost 20 shots against 8, it's a clear win for Bayern Munich. No one will second guess that. The issue is if you look at the chances that Lyon had playing with that most famous against that backline of Bayern that is so high up, they really conceded many chances. I mean, Neuer had a very stressful game actually to contain the attack, and in the start of the game, it could be 1-0 for Lyon before Serge Gnabry even scores the first one. It seemed like it worked because it was Lyon. In the end, their attackers, let's be honest, are not the most known for their finesse finishing. But I'm and everyone in Germany should be worried about what kind of Bayern we will expect in the final, because this just was good enough, but not extraordinary game. And at the end, you saw the players of Bayern, instead of celebrating, final, yes, they were actually really worried about what might encounter them in the final. How did you see the performance, Marco, of Lyon? Were they just unlucky, or was Bayern really that assertive?
I think Lyon did the game they had to do. Let's be honest, we said it in the beginning. By a lot, the underdog in this game. Bayern is most likely the team that is predicted to win the Champions League. So even PSG is going in this final as underdogs. And just imagine how a big difference there is between PSG and Lyon. One team winning the league by a mile, really, and the other being actually finishing 7th. So there is a strong difference between this team, and the league showed it. So quality-wise, I think there was no match for Lyon. They did the game that they had to do. They were aiming to score with counterattacks to get those sparks of play, quick play that the Lyon showed us during this Champions League. That led them really to this semifinal. But at the same time, even with the autopilot model that Bayern Munich had, where really they didn't put too much, they were just going with the flow and knowing that, hey, we're the better team. Somehow we're gonna score. That was still enough, and I think that really shows how strong Bayern is this year, how strong their knowledge of the game is, and even with a bad performance, when you manage to win 3-0, it means that you have something special going for you.
Yeah. But I would say that Lyon went down in a very honorable way. Like I often had the feeling that they would get back into the game finally. And I think we could also appreciate Garcia's play style during the match, like trying to get players through the lines in counter-attacks. And that's very typical of him, and it was very appreciable indeed, in my opinion.
And also there are some players we should highlight from Lyon, and let's be honest, they are in a transfer market going to be one of the players that are going to be talked about through Europe, which is Aouar in the midfield, who played a tremendous game, and also the game before, he was already pretty amazing. And also Memphis Depay, who we're seeing the rebirth of Memphis. Does he still have a future in European football, or is he just that star that keeps promising and under-delivering at the highest stage?
Yeah, I think that Memphis is the classic player that really needs to be nurtured. He really needs to be supported. I don't think he's very strong mentally. He's not the kind of player that can play well when the environment around him is not 100% with him. He really feels the pressure. However, he's a very quality player, and that was recognized since the very beginning of his career. But as he also showed, he doesn't perform well in every environment. And I think he found his more isle of happiness. And the same can be said for many other players. Just if you look at the Golden Boot this year for football, Immobile, I mean, he was awful in the Spanish and Germany experience. And he wasn't that good either when he got back at Torino or last year at Lazio. He needs to be motivated. He needs to see support. And then that excitement that he has in him fuels him to even do more. I think Depay is very similar to that. When he feels like, oh, I'm playing well, I can do well, he's going to destroy every single team. If he's not with that mindset, he will struggle. But I think Lyon, as you mentioned, has quite many players, Owar, but also Kakere. I really like Kakere, both in the quarterfinal and the semifinal. I think it's a youngster that is very intriguing, super chill despite the age and not having the experience of European football at these levels. I think he really had a very strong performance. Not many mistakes, very calm, very disciplined. So that was quite nice.
And yeah, I think that really follows us perfectly for the last part of today's episode, and where we're going to discuss the preview of the Champions League final this Sunday in Lisbon. Sunday, Lisbon, Champions League final is upon us. PSG against Bayern Munich. What a match do we have before us. We have the Qataris from PSG having an amazing renaissance, basically, coming down with Neymar and Mbappe free-flowing, supported by Angel Di Maria. And on the other side, we have the mean Bavarians with their amazing win record of this Champions League. 10 games, 10-1. It's really, really amazing performance. No defeats so far in the Champions League. It's a well-oiled machine during Hansi Flick's time since he picked up team at the end of last year. 35 games played, 32 wins. Is there any way that PSG can go past Bayern, Steph?
Well, I wouldn't bet on that, to be honest. I'm expecting a very debated match with many goals from both teams. But since it's time for the verdict, then my verdict has to go for Bayern Munich. As you said, they have been so strong. They never lost. They just seem to be working so well. Maybe against Lyon they were not at their best, but it's also possible that when you are in the semifinals, you're one step from the finals, and so you're already thinking about that. So maybe they just lack some concentration, and the team fits very well together. So they're going to be very focused on the finals, and even after a very debated match, I see them winning for sure.
Yeah, I have to go with the same line that Stefano has here. I think it's, as mentioned before, a team of individuals versus individuals playing in a team. And the latter is usually always better if the quality is similar, which is in this case. Of course, we can very easily see Mbappe scoring 4 goals and Neymar getting 3 penalties because they have the quality to do so. But it's just playing lottery at that point. It's really, you need to get the game of a lifetime for more than one player, I think, for PSG to win this game. While Bayern needs not to have the worst game of a lifetime for many players to lose this game. So, I think Bayern is coming stronger in this. I would love to see an exciting game full of actions. I think both teams are quite offensive. They are not scared of scoring one more goal than the opponents rather than conceding one less. They're more of the mindset, I believe. So I hope that we're going to see a very exciting finals, but I do see Bayern coming favorites in this.
Well, playing devil's advocate in this case, I think in most games Bayern would win this one. But somehow I feel that that's just not the German way. If I look back into both the national team in 2006, when everything was perfect for them to win at home, and they lost, and they didn't manage to win the World Cup. If you see Bayern's win in 2013, it was very good, but that was not the win that was meant for them. It was the year before when they hosted the Champions League final and they lost to Chelsea at home. It seems like every time it's destined for Bayern, they don't really do it, or the Germans in this case. It's more, they look so perfect and they look like they will not change one thing. They will not adapt anything to play against PSG, which I think might be their curse in the end, and they might suffer on it, because that high line that they keep playing, if they don't bring it down a bit, they're gonna suffer every time that Mbappe or Neymar play, because I don't see that Icardi will play this game. I think it's highly implausible, because that's how PSG will have to play. They have to play on the break, and that plays perfectly into the playing style of Bayern in that defense. I know Alphonso Davies is very quick, and also is Alaba, but eventually you'll let them run by you. And these are not Lyon players. These are PSG players. Probably two of the best players in the world on their attack, plus Di Maria, who is incredibly quick. So to be honest, guys, my verdict on this one is a PSG win for tomorrow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Let's see who's right.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's the finals, and it's always very hard to correctly guess what happens in the finals, because nobody knows what will happen. And also, I mean, guys, judging from our precedent verdicts, we don't always get them right, so don't trust us too much. But in this case, it's just the finals, and Marco and I are betting on Bayern, and Alex is betting on PSG. So at least one of us is getting right, which is a very good point. And we will see, I guess.
Very well, listeners. Thank you so much for joining us this week for the Euro Football Verdicts. Thank you for being with us, and keep listening to us. Follow us on Instagram under Euro Football Verdicts. And also, if you have any questions, send us emails on eurofootballverdicts@gmail.com. We'll be happy to answer them. Thanks. This is everything for this week. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye, and see you next week for another Euro Football Verdicts podcast.